Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Spencer, and today we're going to be going over the top 5 worst video games ever released. Now, for this list, we're not going to be including like indie titles such as like stuff on the Xbox Indie Store, because if we were including that, then all 5 spots would be games on the Xbox Indie Store. Now, with that being said, let's get into our top 5. Now, coming in at our number 5 spot, we have the game Extreme Paint Brawl. Now, Extreme Paint Brawl is a game that came out in 1998, and boy, was it awful. Now, this game is just kind of one of those games that didn't need to exist, and believe me, it shouldn't have existed, because this game has been criticized for having poor graphics, poor AI, and poor practice mode. Now, this game received a 0.7 out of 10 by IGN, and that is why it is coming in at our number 5 spot. Now, coming in at our number 4 spot, we have Sonic the Hedgehog, aka Sonic 06, on the Xbox 360. Now, Sonic 06 is more of a disappointment than a bad game, but if you compare it to all the other games in the Sonic franchise, it is a bad game. Now, this game's been criticized for having a weird story, which Sonic is trying to rescue a human and have kind of a romantic relationship with a human, and it's also been criticized for its kind of awkward graphics, basically placing Sonic in a city, and it's a really bland city, as you can see here in the gameplay, and it looks like just some regular old city, but it looks really bizarre when Sonic and Tails are the only ones in the city. And this city is also very bland in the fact that it looks like something you would see in Goat Simulator. If you've ever seen that game, it has the most bland cities ever, basically. And to see Sonic in it is just really weird. And as you guys can see, the game suffers from many glitches, and that is another reason why it's criticized. And on top of that, basically, the game is also criticized for having a very kind of poor, what Sonic is known for, his gameplay and his kind of infinite runner type gameplay, and it does that very poorly. And the fact that you don't really feel like you're doing anything when you're playing this game, it's mainly just like quick time events and stuff like that, and nobody really expects that from a Sonic game, and it doesn't really work at all. So that's what's coming in at our number 4 spot. Now, coming in at our number 3 spot, and I don't think this is really a surprise to anyone, we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. Now, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, it kind of sucks to put it on here, but it kind of it's on here mainly because it ruined, which was once a great series of games. And I think that the franchise kind of ran its course, and I think that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was one of those games, another game that kind of didn't need to exist, because people were already a fan of the old Tony Hawk games, and if anything, this really damaged the reputation of them, and it kind of destroyed any possibility of a future game in the franchise, because everyone's so knowing that this game is one of the worst games ever, and it came on launch with so many glitches and so many game-breaking elements. The multiplayer was awful. It was more of a downgrade from all the previous installments of the franchise than an upgrade, and that's why it's coming in at our number 3 spot. Now, coming in at our number 2 spot, we have Ride to Hell Retribution. Now, Ride to Hell Retribution kind of sounds like a cool idea in theory, like an open world motorcycle game. Sounds like it could have been decent if executed properly, but it wasn't. Basically, the game is riddled with glitches. It has awful graphics for its time of 2013. Literally, these graphics look like they're from the early 2000s, and that's being generous. And on top of that, the game is riddled with really awkward sex scenes that are just very poorly rendered. They're just awkward to watch. They make you uncomfortable watching them, and I don't know why they included them, and for that reason, it is coming in at our number 2 spot. Now, for our number 1 spot, guys, how could it have been anything else? We have Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. Now, Big Rigs sounds like a mediocre kind of game in theory. It just sounds like it could have been a decent, forgettable racing game, and I mean, it just sounds like a kind of washed out idea. but let me tell you, it's anything but forgettable. Now, this game's so memorable for its glitches. It literally, the game doesn't have anything right about it. You are not confined by the road in Big Rigs, which is a racing game, let me add, or it's advertised as a racing game at least. And for you to be able to not be confined by the road in a racing game is kind of the first problem. And the fact that you can just leave the map by just driving instead of having to do a glitch or anything, you just drive out of the map. It's just an awful game. It's probably the most unfinished game ever that was ever released to the public, and this was actually sold. People paid money to play this game, and as you guys can see in the gameplay here, this guy literally just left the map by driving. And when you get out of the map, you could literally keep going until you roll the speedometer 50, 100, 1,000 times if you want to. The game doesn't even care. The game has no boundaries. It has nothing to keep you inside the game. It's like the developers didn't even care. As you guys can see, the taillights are like hanging off the truck, and the graphics are awful too. The graphics are nothing to cry home about. And for those reasons, Big Rigs is the #1 worst game of all time. Now guys, that was the top 5 for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this top 5. I had a lot of fun making the top 5 worst games of all time. And if you did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you liked it and want to see more top 5 content like this. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.